A ver si... Y hay una aldea ahí. Cuadra lo del Pillager Outpost. No se funciona en esta. Hacer la comida, ahora vengo. general, toda la zona de la aldea está bastante llano, teniendo en cuenta. Pues ya he hecho la comida.
The Biome Vote. Much like the Mob Vote, it was a community-wide event where players were asked to choose between 3 options, out of which only one would ultimately be added to the game. But this time, we weren't just voting for a single mob. Instead, we were voting for an entire biome overhaul with new features, mechanics, and even a new mob to complement the biome. Rather than introducing a standalone creature with barely any context, these updates promise to expand the world itself, making old biomes feel fresh again, and offering a new reason to explore them. Mojang did promise that the losing biomes might return in some form one day, and to some extent that promise has been kept. The biome votes took place in 2018 and 2019, featuring a total of 2 votes and 6 biome options. Out of those 6, 3 have made it into the game: the mountains featuring goats, the taiga featuring foxes, both of which won their respective votes. And then there's the swamp, which was eventually added alongside frogs despite originally losing. But even with these additions, there are still plenty of biome concepts and features that haven't found their way into the game, even after 6 years. And the ones that did make it ended up feeling pretty bland and underwhelming. So in this video, I'm going to go through every biome from the original votes and give them a complete overhaul. Let's give these forgotten biome overhauls a second chance and maybe even a future in the game. Starting off with the first losing biome from the 2018 biome vote, the Savannah. Originally, the Savannah biome was supposed to feature a brand new tree called the Baobab tree, which would be the thickest tree in Minecraft. Baobab trees are commonly hollow on the inside due to natural decay over their thousands of years of existence. They can act as a water source since their trunks store moisture, or serve as a shelter for players looking to spend the night. The Baobab tree would also grow baobab fruit, which could be a reliable early game food source. Baobab trees in real life are thick, have a fibrous inner bark that's soft, strong, and flexible, making it perfect for crafting ropes, just like this. Ropes work similarly to twisting and weeping vines from the nether, but they're much more accessible and practical. You can right-click the bottom of the rope to extend it upward, or right-click the top to lower it downward, making it a reliable tool for climbing and cave diving. The Savannah is also home to the Termite Mound. While it was never specified whether termites would be actual mobs or just a block, I decided to make them into a mob. Much like the bee, the termite is significantly larger than its real-life counterparts, and houses itself in termite mound blocks. Termites fester on decomposing plants and wood, and actively search for nearby trees to feed on, similar to how bees search for flowers to pollinate. The termite functions more like a parasitic outbreak. If you try chopping down a tree near a termite mound, you'll notice that the logs are hollow, since termites feed on the inside of the wood, leaving only the outer layer behind. These hollow logs also serve as housing for termites, meaning termite mounds can be found inside the logs themselves, allowing the infestation to spread. To prevent them from taking over the entire world, termites can only spread within a certain radius of the original mound block. There is also an effective way to combat termite outbreaks, which I will talk about later in the video since it's tied to another feature. The hollow log can also be harvested. While it only yields a single plank, its true value lies in its decorative ability and useful properties. You can right-click the hollow log with almost any block to store it inside, allowing for creative combinations and unique designs. Blocks like flower pots, moss, mushroom, and other similar items can be placed directly inside, making the hollow log a highly customizable and a dynamic decorative block. Beyond decoration, the hollow log also has a practical farming use. It can be used to reinforce farmland. By placing a hollow log down and filling it with dirt, you can then till the dirt inside the frame to create protected farmland. This wooden border prevents crops from being trampled by players or mobs, acting as a sort of natural fence. You can even pour water into the log and place a glass block in it to safely hydrate the soil while preventing accidental falls into the water source block. It's a functional and visually appealing way to upgrade your farms. But all of this isn't even the main attraction of the Savannah biome. The real spotlight goes to the ostrich, with its tall frame and long curved neck. Ostriches are mostly neutral and will run away if you attack them, and will stick their heads in the ground if they feel like they're in danger. However, they become territorial when it comes to their young. You can breed ostriches, after which they will lay an egg. Ostriches prefer to lay their eggs in shaded areas, often choosing the space beneath a baobab tree. While usually peaceful, an ostrich will turn aggressive and attack with its powerful neck strikes if you get too close to its egg. They will also sit on their eggs to incubate them until they hatch. Once the baby ostrich is born, the parent becomes even more protective, much like a polar bear, and will attack you if you approach its young. If you feed a baby ostrich, it will begin to trust you. Once it grows up, you can put a saddle on it and ride it. Riding an ostrich offers a unique experience unlike any other mount in the game. Known as the fastest bird on land, the ostrich doesn't start out fast. It gradually accelerates the longer you ride it. However, it loses momentum when climbing vertically. To make the most of an ostrich's speed, players are encouraged to flatten terrain and create long, uninterrupted strips of land. On a straight, horizontal path with no obstacles, an ostrich can accelerate to impressive speeds, rivaling even the ice boating method. While not quite as fast as ice boats, ostriches make up for it by not requiring the tedious setup that ice boating does, making them a more practical option for fast overland travel. Ostriches also shed their feathers from time to time, which I'll go into more detail about later in the video. The next losing biome from the 2018 biome vote is the desert. Now, the desert can certainly benefit from an update, especially one that features a new mob, since deserts can often feel pretty barren and devoid of life. First up, the desert now features the new palm tree, which can grow all across the landscape. But more importantly, deserts now pose a brand new challenge for the player, the heat stroke effect. Upon entering a desert at daytime, a new bar appears over your hunger bar, the heat stroke bar. This bar slowly builds up as you spend time in the harsh desert conditions. If you're standing directly under the sun in the desert, the bar fills up faster. It also peaks during midday and slows down during the early morning or evening. If you sprint or jump around a lot, the buildup speeds up even more. And if you're standing on heat-reflecting blocks like sand or sandstone, you're going to feel the heat much quicker. Wearing armor just makes it worse. So basically, everything you're used to doing becomes a nuisance in the desert. Now, the heat stroke effect comes in stages. At stage 1, you will experience a slight hunger drain and a subtle screen blur. Stage 2 hits you with slowness and mining fatigue. If you're careless enough to let it reach stage 3, you will start taking damage over time, enough to kill you if left untreated. The more heat icons that appear on your bar, the worse it gets. But sometimes the desert has a surprise for you that can actually help. Sandstorms are a rare weather event that usually happens during thunderstorms. When a sandstorm rolls in, visibility drops significantly, making it really hard to see far ahead. But while it's disorienting, it also has a big advantage. It keeps you cool. As long as the sandstorm is active, your heat stroke bar stops building entirely. Moving through a sandstorm also changes the way you navigate. If you're walking against the direction of the wind, it will slow you down quite a bit, but if you move with the wind, it actually speeds you up, letting you travel faster across the desert. So while sandstorms make it harder to see and move in certain directions, they are also your best chance at escaping the heat or travel long distances quickly. But while the desert is harsh, there's one place that offers complete protection, the desert oasis. These rare spots are a true paradise in the middle of the dry wasteland, surrounded by palm trees and patches of lush grass. The oasis instantly cools you down and completely stops heatstroke buildup while you're inside. You will find more palm trees here than anywhere else, and it really feels like nature is alive again, even in the middle of a scorching desert. Luckily, there are also a few other ways to fight back against the heat. Wearing a leather cap works a lot like leather boots and powdered snow. It's a simple but effective counter that slows down the heatstroke effect, giving leather armor a new purpose. Standing under shade, whether it's from palm trees or village overhangs, also cools you off. And of course, water is a great counter. You can either stand in it or drink it directly. It's kind of like the freezing mechanic in snowy biomes, except instead of freezing, you're now dealing with the brutal heat of the sun. But the desert also introduces a more creative way to keep cool: ostrich feathers. You can use them to craft a fan. The fan doesn't just cool you off either. You can use it to extinguish yourself if you're burning, or even put out fires in a wide area. It's a surprisingly handy tool for desert survival. There's another very effective way to cool off: coconuts. Palm trees now grow coconuts, and once ripe, the coconuts have a chance to fall down from the tree. If you're unlucky enough to be standing underneath one, it acts like dripstone and can deal a hefty amount of damage. But if you collect one, you will get the coconut item. Now, the coconut is more than just a fruit. It's actually a ground-based projectile. You can throw it at mobs or players, and it will bounce off walls and roll around like a bowling ball. It's pretty fun to use in combat or just mess around with. But if you'd rather use it for survival, you can throw it into the crafting grid to open it up. You'll get the edible coconut half, which helps you cool off when eaten. Once eaten, the leftover shell doesn't just disappear either. You get an empty coconut shell, which you can use as a bowl or even as fuel. It's a small detail, but it adds a lot of character. That's not all though. If you place a cauldron underneath a coconut, over time it will slowly fill up with coconut juice. You can right-click a cauldron with a bottle to extract coconut oil. This opens up a ton of possibilities. Coconut oil can be used to lubricate things like doors, trapdoors, or even pistons, removing their sound entirely. You can also drink it to cool yourself off and restore a bit of hunger. You can right-click blocks with coconut oil to make them slippery like ice. And yes, you can even use it to craft candles. But the real highlight of the desert update would be meerkats. Meerkats spawn in groups and are some of the most interesting mobs in the desert. They are excellent scavengers that feed exclusively on insects, so they'll naturally hunt down termites, spiders, and even silverfish. Whenever they kill their prey, they collect their loot and take it back to their burrows. You'll often see them digging in the sand to build their little houses, and they'll store any item they find inside them. That includes mob drops and even any random items they come across on the ground. If you want to access the loot inside the burrow, all you need to do is brush the burrow block, kind of like how you'd uncover suspicious sand. They will also occasionally stand on their hind legs and look around for danger, adding some personality to their behavior. Now, if you feed the meerkat some seeds, it will help you locate the nearest desert structures, kind of like how dolphins guide you to ocean ruins. But if you really want to make one your own, you can tame it using a fermented spider eye. Once tamed, meerkats become incredibly useful as a natural form of pest control. If you bring one near a termite infestation, it will automatically start digging into the termite mound and clear it out for you. You can also bring it with you into a stronghold, and it will sniff out and destroy any hidden silverfish from inside the blocks. Overall, meerkats are playful animals that bring the desert to life and give you a really fun and useful way to deal with insect outbreaks, whether you're in the wild or at home. The next losing biome is from the 2019 biome vote, the Badlands. The Badlands generate a large amount of terracotta and extra gold, but even with that, the biome still feels incredibly underwhelming. Now, the Badlands feature a new type of cactus that grows out arms, unlike the regular cactus, which only grows straight upward. This cactus also blooms a unique flower, an edible cactus flower with light regenerative properties that also help reduce the heat stroke effect. While the Badlands are affected by heat stroke, the effect here is considerably milder than the desert biome. The Badlands also introduce a brand new feature, tumbleweeds. Tumbleweeds roll across the land, adding a great sense of atmosphere and fully embracing the western style of the biome. They spawn most frequently in the Badlands, but can also occasionally be found in deserts. But tumbleweeds are far more than just decoration. You can search them for all sorts of loot, anything from sticks, dead bushes, cobwebs, string, and seeds, to even gold or iron nuggets and saplings. You can also build tumbleweed catchers using hollow logs or cobwebs to create tumbleweed farms. They are extremely flammable as well, bursting into flames and quickly disintegrating when set on fire. Interestingly, tumbleweeds also attract meerkats. Meerkats will chase after them and steal whatever items they contain, taking the loot back to their burrows. This creates a clever interaction. You can combine tumbleweed catchers with meerkats to make an automatic tumbleweed farm. Just brush the burrows to retrieve the stored loot. To really embrace the western vibe, the Badlands should also include a new western-style village, making the biome feel more lived in and exciting to explore. But the highlight of the Badlands biome would have to be the vulture. The vulture would finally introduce a new flying mob to the game, giving the skies more personality. As a master scavenger, it soars across the landscape searching for loot. Vultures are drawn to undead mobs and will circle around them, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. Undead mobs fear them and will try to avoid them whenever possible. Vultures are also drawn to weak players and to loot dropped by players who have died. They are usually passive unless you're low on health, in which case they will take the opportunity to attack. They'll also defend themselves if you strike them or get too close to their nests. Yes, vultures have nests. They often collect loot and store it in their nest blocks, and you can even feed them rotten flesh to breed them. After breeding, they will lay an egg at their nest, where they tend to stay when not flying. You can try to steal the egg, but be warned, doing so will cause nearby vultures to attack. If you manage to steal both the egg and the nest block, you can hatch and raise a baby vulture at home. The vulture needs the nest block to grow, and feeding it rotten flesh will speed up the process. Once it becomes an adult, it will patrol the skies around its nest block, protecting your base from undead mobs. But that's not all. Vultures also protect you from threats in the sky. They hate phantoms and will actively hunt them down. If you have a vulture flying around your base, you will never have to worry about phantoms again, making the vulture one of the most effective base defense mobs in the game. Since all of the biomes from this point on have either already been added or won their respective biome votes, I'll be focusing on smaller improvements rather than full-on revamps. Starting off with the swamp biome, which despite originally losing the vote, was eventually added to the game. But instead of being a true swamp update, it felt more like Mojang simply introducing an entirely new separate biome rather than improving the already existing swamps. So let's make the swamps feel a little more alive. First, the swamp should feature more plant life to better capture the feel of a true swamp. That's where cattails come in. They grow in and around water, and while they mostly serve as a visual improvement, they also come in with some simple but useful mechanics. You can use them to craft brown dye, burn them as fuel, or even turn free cattails into a single piece of paper, giving players a new natural way to get paper. Now on to frogs. The current frogs already have free variants, but that's not enough. In this update, there's now a frog for every color in the game. This lets you collect the frog life for every single dye color color, which turns Froglights into proper collectibles and opens up a ton of new building options. But even with those changes, the swamps still feel a bit empty. So now, swamp villagers are finally added. The swamp villager has existed in the game for years. It only makes sense to finally give them a place to live. Swamp villages would blend wooden walkways, mossy structures, and mud paths, making them feel truly unique compared to any other village type. And that's just the start. There's still so much more that could be done to make the swamp feel complete. But even with just a few small tweaks, it already starts to feel more like a biome worth exploring. Next up are the mountains. Since the mountain biome already feels pretty solid, I'll be focusing mainly on the goat itself. Goats can now be sheared to produce a single wool and can also be milked, but with a cooldown. This is to ensure that goats don't completely replace sheep or cows, while still giving them a more practical use. But the biggest focus here is on the goat horns, something I originally talked about in my video where I fixed useless Minecraft features. There are 8 different goat horns in the game, each with its own unique sound effect, and that's pretty much it. You blow into them, they make a cool noise, and nothing else happens. Sure, some horns only drop from screaming goats, which makes them rarer and a bit more collectible, but there's no real incentive to use them. So I thought, what if goat horns actually did something more tactical? Now, if you blow a goat horn during a village raid, it gives nearby iron golems a special buff. Depending on which horn you use, the golem could become faster, stronger, tankier, or even hit with increased attack speed. Each horn gives a unique effect, giving village raids a whole new layer of strategy. But that's not all. You can now attach a goat horn to a note block, and when powered, it plays a horn sound. Pair it with tripwires or pressure plates, and suddenly you've got a working alarm system for your base. Visually, goat horns can also be placed as decorative blocks. Stick a torch into one, and now it becomes a medieval style lamp. Hang a few from the ceiling, and they make for a great chandelier design. And for combat, goat horns can now be combined with any helmet using a smithing table to create a warrior helmet. While wearing one, sprinting into mobs will knock them back and deal a small amount of damage. Perfect for pushing away creepers or giving yourself some breathing room in the fight. And to make your life a bit easier, you could use a goat horn to give your pets a glowing effect. That way, if they ever wander off, you'll be able to spot them right away. This would definitely turn an otherwise underwhelming mob into something players would actually seek out. And the final biome is the taiga, where I'll focus on making foxes more exciting and useful overall. The concept of foxes holding items has always had a lot of potential, but right now it doesn't really do much. So I decided to take that idea and turn it into something more meaningful. Depending on what item the fox is holding, it will now perform certain actions. For example, if a fox is holding a hoe and runs over dirt, there's a chance it will automatically till the soil. If it's holding shears and runs past the sheep, there's a chance it will shear it. Give it flint and steel and there's a chance it will light a block on fire when running over it. If it's holding a potion, the fox will drink it over time. And finally, if the fox is holding a bucket, it can pick up a single block of water or even lava, making it a handy little assistant. The fox already has cool interactions with certain items, and it would fit right in with their design if that functionality was expanded upon. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like, subscribe,
Hola, madre mía, Legolas.